Hi everybody, welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers, and the SharePoint Power Hour is a show that we do live weekly every Wednesday at 11 Central, where some coworkers from Rackspace and I get together and do demos of SharePoint stuff for you. It's basically centered around business solutions, which is anything you can do without having to know custom programming or have to go into central admin or do any PowerShell. So it's mostly just out-of-the-box functionality in SharePoint. And today we're going to be talking about quick parts. So let everybody introduce themselves. Again, I'm Laura Rogers, Microsoft MVP. We have Stephen. I'll let you go next, and then Joelle will go ahead into the beginning of the demo.
I'm Stephen Wilson. I'm the infrastructure and admin specialist on the SharePoint services team at Rackspace. I do some of the business solutions sort of on a minor end of things, but more of the admin infrastructure stuff that includes all the things that Laura said this doesn't include. Central admin, PowerShell, that kind of stuff.
You have to say that every time, don't you, Stephen?
I do, because I don't want people to see me in this and then be like, oh, I'll ask him, and then I'm like, I have no idea. You went mute, Laura.
All right, Joelle's next, I guess.
All right, sorry. My name is Joelle Farley. My camera, for whatever reason, is not working, so you can't see me, but I'm here, I promise. I am a business solution consultant, also kind of a minor developer with the SharePoint team. What I specialize in is what we consider planning and design. I work a lot with things like helping people figure out their information architecture and how they're going to use SharePoint, and then also doing all the out-of-the-box stuff that Laura mentioned. So things like workflows, forms, Excel services, all that fun stuff, basically taking all those features as far as they can go without code. All right, awesome. You want me to go ahead and just jump in?
Parts. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, let me go ahead. I'll share my screen. Give me 1 second to do that.
By the way, as we're going, you guys can ask questions using the little Q&A app that's right there. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll have a link to Q&A, which will really take you over to the Google+. But and then it'll show us the questions as we go, and we'll answer them. Thanks.
Yep, exactly. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is quick parts. So I think in other on other power hours, when we've had different topics, we've kind of quickly graced over them. So I think when we talked about content types, we mentioned them. I think that way back, way back, when we were talking about Excel services a year or so ago, we also talked about them a little bit then. So we decided to just focus on those today and really explain them. And that way, if people are interested and don't know what the heck we're talking about but want to, then they can kind of get a head start on those. So basically, quick parts are not just specific to SharePoint. Quick parts are things that you can use in if you're just creating a Word document. I am dealing with Office 2013. I think they were also available in 2010. I know they were available in 2010, but I'm not sure about 2007. They maybe have been available because that was the beginning of the ribbon and everything, but I'm not 100% sure. But I definitely know in 2010 they are too. So if you go to Insert on my ribbon in Word, I have this area over here called Text, and in this area I have Quick Parts. And if I click on this, essentially what this is it's just giving me a way to pull information, the metadata that's stored about my document just on a file share, just on my documents folder, just the general stuff like author and then the company that I work for, because obviously depending on how my computer's set up, it's going to know that. So you'll see that here, what I can do with auto text, which is the top one here, is I can have this automatically put my name or the company I work for in a certain spot on the page. So it looks like right here we're going to do it in the upper left-hand corner, and then that way it just always pulls in that way. We also have document property. This is where we're going to get into what SharePoint can do. So under document property here, we have some of what we consider the Dublin core metadata that's going to be stored about the document. So a lot of the stuff, if you ever go into your documents folder, and I'll show you this really quick. If you ever go into a document and you just click on a random document here, and you look over on the right-hand side, this is a toolbar that you can turn on using your view options up here at the top. But in this toolbar here, you'll see some information, and this is stuff that's being stored about your document. So, the date that it was created, the date that it was modified, the content type for that your document's being recognized as, the author. There's even a way to put keywords for this information. So you have a lot of those options there. And this is just outside of SharePoint. So these are just some of the Dublin Core metadata. So then with that said, I can actually, with my quick parts, I can pull some of that information into my document. So I can just say, if I'm just typing a document, so I'm going to say this is a document created by, and then I'm going to insert a quick part. So I'm going to go to here and click on author. And then it automatically puts that tag in there for me, and then I could use this as a template if I wanted to, and I have that information pulling in. And you'll see if I hover over it, it kind of highlights it because it recognizes that this is actually a quick part. You also have field here where you can go in and you can create fields. So you can kind of create quick parts to put into your document. And I'm going to show this a little bit later. There's an image option. Include picture, actually. There's an include picture option. I'm going to show with Excel services how you can actually include pictures of charts and graphs that are in your Excel service in your Excel file that you're published through Excel services. So I'll show that in a little while. That's essentially what they are. So they're just these items that you can add into your document and kind of just make your document a little bit more dynamic. But we're going to, obviously, since we're SharePoint folks, we're going to focus on what we can do with this inside of SharePoint. So that's going to be what I'm going to switch over to now. So go ahead and close this. All right, so in my site, I have two. Like I said, I'm going to have two different. I have two different demos, and then I think Laura's going to show some other stuff as well. So I have two different libraries. I have one for customer report, which is going to be the Excel service thing I'm going to show in just a minute, and then I have production forms. So I have this library here, and we're going to store these production forms. The production form is actually going to be a content type. So if I go to File and New Document, I have production form as a content type. Now currently this is a document content type, but there's no template or anything behind it. Right now it's just got some custom, some site columns associated to it, and that's about it. So I want to go ahead and I want to add some information or add a template to this production form so that I can use quick parts with my metadata. So how do I do that? Well, the first thing I need to do is I do have a document on my computer. Go back up here. And it's called Wayland Production, and it's just basically a document with some text in it, and it has an area where I could put in information. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this as a template and then use quick parts to pull in metadata into the document. So let's do that. So I'm going to go to my site settings, and I'm going to go to my content types and then production form. And I'm going to go to advanced settings, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to browse for that file, browse for that template. So I'm going to add that. And I want it to go ahead and update all content types inheriting, yes. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then I want to check on the document information panel. If you remember from a couple of sessions ago, we talked about this. This is whenever you open a document from inside of SharePoint that has metadata, you can have it show this document information panel, and you can use this to populate metadata that can then be pushed into the document itself. So it just kind of makes the whole process a little bit easier, and we'll see that in just a minute. You can customize the document information panel, so you can actually have somebody that can, if somebody customizes it for you, you can load that here. And I'm actually going to have this always show on the document open and initial save so that I can see it. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So then you can see down here for my content type, I have a couple of site columns that I've created that are associated here as well. So I'm going to go back to my library. And now what I need to do is I added that, but what I have to do now is I have to create one form, the first form just from my template, so that I can go ahead and pull in the quick parts into the document. And then I'm going to save that, and then that's going to become my new template that users are going to use so that they automatically see the quick parts added in. So let me go ahead and I'm going to do File and then New Document. And it's going to prompt me for my credentials. Alright, so I'm going to enable editing. And then Microsoft Word's going to crash. So let me try that one more time. Okay. All right, so this is the document information panel. So you remember I had 3 columns. So I had release name, employee code, and release date. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to add these items into my document. So if somebody populates these, whenever they create a new form, when somebody populates these, they can go ahead, they can put in the information here, and it automatically populates down here without them having to go in and mess with the formatting of this document. So the way that I do that is I'm just going to go down and click on Name here, and then I'm going to go to Insert, Quick Part, Document Property, and you'll now see that in addition to the Dublin core stuff, I now have my my actual my actual site columns that are listed here. So the name, I can add release name, and then employee code, I can add that. So I'm going to go to employee code, and then date, I can add that. Release date. So I've added those 3 in here, and now I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to save this because it's going to save this as my new template, basically. So I'm going to save this into the library and then pull that in as a new template. So then whenever somebody creates this form, they're not going to have to add in the quick parts. They're already going to be added in there for them. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And it looks like, I'm not sure, but I keep seeing comments, I think that, I don't know what's going on, but they're saying that they're having a hard time following the demo.
That's odd, because my microphone's muted. Were you hearing me click or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I've been sitting here clicking. Have you heard me clicking around?
No, I haven't. And actually, I have the Google Hangout up on my other screen, and I haven't seen it switch. So that's strange.
Yeah, I haven't seen it switch either. I'm gonna go back to mute, and hopefully that'll go away. You guys let us know, okay?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, Laura, you know what? Try also clicking on me in the bottom of the Google Hangout. Just click on my, like wherever my screen share is at the bottom. Maybe that'll help. I don't know.
I did that. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Just we'll try it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna go File, and I'm gonna just save it right to the library. And I'm just gonna call it Template. So I go ahead and I save that. Refresh. So now I have that template here. So I'm going to copy the location for this. Ellipsis, I always forget. There it is. I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to go back to my content type, and I'm going to set the template again. Now that I've done that. I'm going to enter the URL. I should do that now. Back to production form. And now if my users are to go in and do File, New Document. So now you'll see that those things are already populated down here, so they don't have to do any of the inserting. They're just going to put in their information. And you'll see that those things automatically populate in the document, and then they can click Save, and then they can save it back to the library. And close that. And now if I refresh, then you have the Wayland Production 1, and if I were to just look at this, just take a quick look at it. I would see that that information is now populated in there. So I can easily, then my users aren't messing with the format of the document or the template at all. And what I would say, and you'll notice that I put the template in the same library as that the users will be using, so the same library that they'll be saving their production forms in, I put the template here. That's not the best practice, obviously, because you don't want your users really messing with that template. So what I would do is I would create a library called templates, and then I would just add all my content types that I need templates for to that library, and then create the templates inside of that library, and then use that as the link that they use in the actual library that they're saving them to.
I've seen it give errors when you're doing quick parts, though. I've seen it get very confused. Have you ever tried that method when you actually have quick parts in the document?
Yeah, I have. As long as I use
I probably was doing something wrong then.
Well, I mean, there's definitely some quirky stuff I've seen, but as long as I added, yeah,
it thought the library that I was in where the templates were stored, it thought that's where it was supposed to be getting the metadata. So, but I was probably just doing stuff in the wrong order. But yeah,
that's interesting.
I don't know.
And we might want to dig into that and see. Yeah, because like what I did in the past that worked was to just add the content type to the template. Like I added that the correct content type, and then it seemed to work because it matched up to it. But I don't know, that there might be something quirky though, because I know, like for example, one thing, and I'm not sure if Laura, if you were planning on talking about this, but in 2013, if you try to have a workflow create a document like this, it doesn't work correctly. So like it used to work perfectly. You would say, okay, create this document. You know, you would have a workflow run. It would say create a document in the production form library with this metadata. And then it used to just work perfectly fine. So it'd create Wayland Production 1, whatever the title is. And then it would have the quick parts would be created correctly and everything would look fine. But in 2013, it seems to have some issues around that. So I don't know if it might be something like that, Laura, that is just quirky, but we can talk about that definitely. But yeah, so you see that I created, the reason I did that in that order is because in order to get the metadata available to my quick parts, I had to first create the template in the library from the original template. I had to do that first for it to pull in the metadata, and then I created that, and then I'm using that to create the rest of my documents now. And what you'll see here is if I go into, and I'm just going to modify this view of this library just really quickly, add these guys in here. And now you'll see that the information I populated for that form is now showing as metadata.
That's probably what I had done wrong. I'd probably not put the content type in that template library. And done that extra step.
Okay.
That's just something extra you'd have to know to do, like.
Yeah.
Not only in the library where we're using the forms, but in the library where you're storing the templates. And the templates idea is great for, like, if you have a secretary that's just in charge of modifying all your templates.
Right.
You can just let her go to that one place, as opposed to having to let her be a site admin and go modify content types, right?
Yeah, do all the dirty work. But yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we can test it out though, for sure, just to make sure. But yeah, so that's kind of the first example that I have for quick parts. So that's just kind of a real basic one. You're just adding in the quick parts so that your users aren't having to go in and actually change the format of the document. They're just entering the information or the metadata into that document information panel at the top. So that's one example. Another example I have is to use Excel services so that you can actually have graphs and charts from Excel documents show up in a report dynamically. So what that means is, let's say and go to my home page, and I have this document here, this Excel document called demo test. I'm going to open. And so in this document, there's a couple of different things, but one thing that I have here is I have this chart here, and it's a pivot chart, and it's called 2008 Metal Comparison by Event. And now this is just a very specific thing that I had created. But basically the idea is this is a chart that gets updated every month. So this is data that's constantly being changed and updated in this Excel spreadsheet. And so this same chart is being used and looked at all the time. And so what I want to do is I want to have use the Excel REST API. I want to go ahead and have that pull this chart and put it into a document called, or a report that we create every month. So then that way when people open up that report, they're seeing the information right from the spreadsheet. They're not just seeing like a saved image. They're actually seeing the real-time live data from the spreadsheet. So we can do that using quick parts. So basically the first thing I need to do here is with my Excel document, first I would have to, one, have enterprise version of SharePoint. And then the next thing is I'd have to publish my my document to Excel services and tell it to identify that chart. So select that chart when I'm uploading it to the Excel services and into SharePoint. And then once I do that, there is a very specific, let me pull this over here. I'll just put it in a Word document so you guys can see it. Let me paste this. So there's a very specific URL that you have to use, and I'll zoom in because it looks like it's pretty small. There's a very specific URL, and basically it's going to be your site collection in your site. So this is my site's fullhouse3.rackspace.com/content type. And then it's, after that, there is this special piece here, and it's _VTI_bin/Excel-REST.ASPX. So right there, that's the special piece. That's going to get you into the REST API. And then the rest of the URL is your shared document, so your document library, and then the name of your Excel file /model. So the model is the other thing that you add. So that URL right there, this is the URL to get you to the Excel REST API, so you can kind of take a look at the items that are being published through Excel services. So I'm just going to take this URL I kind of created, get it highlighted here. And I'm just going to go ahead and go to this URL. It's going to look a lot like an RSS feed, so for those that are familiar with that. So what I can do here is I have ranges, charts, tables, and pivot tables. So these are the things that it's recognizing from my Excel spreadsheet. And as I mentioned, I'm dealing with a chart here, so I want to go to Chart. Chart 2 is the name of my chart. Very creative with the naming. And then here's the chart here. And you'll notice that the URL is specific, so it's actually looking directly to the Excel REST API, and it's pulling this chart as an image so that I can use it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy the URL up here for my chart. And I'm going to go back to, I'm going to go to my customer report, and I am going to, oh, this is a content type, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to Site Settings. And select content types. So I'm going to do similar to what I just did a little while ago with the production form. So I'm going to go to Advanced Settings. And the first thing I'm going to do is browse for my template. So that's there. And make sure I don't really need it, but I'll just go ahead and turn it on anyways. Go back to Customer Report. I'm going to create one. And enable, please don't error. Oh, I knew it was going to do that. I did it last time too.
I hate when that happens.
I know. Just close this. Choo-choo-choo. Let's do it one more time. It seemed like the second time I did it earlier it worked. Okay. So I have my document. This is going to be my new template. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to insert that chart image here. So it always, no matter whenever they create this monthly customer report, if they come in and they do this every month, it's always going to create and have that same chart show up right in the report. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do Insert, Quick Parts. And this time instead of Document Property, I'm actually going to go to Field. And I'm going to scroll down to include picture. And I'm going to paste the URL that I copied earlier, make sure it is. Yep, there it is. And then here I can say if I want to preserve formatting, if this is data not stored within the document, then I want to check that, because this technically is not data stored in the document, so I leave that checked. And then you can resize horizontally, vertically from the source, and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. That inserts that chart there, and I'm going to save this as my template. Saves it, close it, refresh. And then I'm going to take that URL just like I did earlier, and I'm going to make this the new template behind the content type. Back to customer report, and now if they create a new customer report, so they're going to go new customer report. What do you guys think we'll see?
Drum roll.
Don't we have an effects thing that does the drum roll?
Yeah, and it looks like it's actually not working.
Of course.
Move, delete to verify that the link points to the correct file and location. I may have messed up the URL somehow, but it would essentially, that's what it would do. It would populate here, and it looks like I may be having issues with Word. You can also add this instead of just with the quick part. You can add this into like an announcement, which has been helpful to some people. So if I have, let's see, if I have announcements. Do I do news? So I'm going to go new announcement. And then I can actually insert this into here as well as a picture from address. And it inserts that into... Apparently it's just not wanting to work for me today. Try that again. Yeah, apparently I'm just not having a good demo day. Because it's not wanting to insert it there either. I was having issues with Internet Explorer earlier, so I moved over to Firefox, and that might be the problem. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Browsers are just not loving SharePoint lately, by the way.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Let's see. Yeah, so Laura, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Well, I'll try to figure out what happened. Well, if you have anything you want to.
Yeah, I can do a demo that's around company policies.
Sure.
So I'm using this concept inside of a company policy. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, full screen. Let me see. So you see like just my wallpaper right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so put my VM over here. Okay, so now you can see my VM, right? My company policy document, right?
Yep, I can.
Okay, so this is my beautiful Contoso company policy that I created the logo myself. I was very excited about that. Golf clap. So this is the company policy template that we're going to be using, and then what I'm going to do is go and put it in a library like we showed. So the concept of having a company policy library, and then we're going to try the whole workflow thing that you were talking about. So I'm going to just real quick put a document library in here, call it policies. So with this content type, though, you could create it at the root of the site collection and then have a policies library, and all your different all your different departments could have their own policy library if you wanted to, and then people did search, you could have tagging and stuff like that on it that way, or otherwise people could just have company policies in one big place. But anyway, so we're going to have company policies in a library, and then I'll go ahead and create the content type where I'm going to put that template that I was just created. So like Joelle said, you have to upload it as a content type first to be able to fill in the quick parts. So.
Okay, they're saying they can't see your screen.
Oh. Okay, can you?
I can, but I know. Let me go over to YouTube really quick.
Okay. So I'm just going to keep creating this content type. I did maximize the VM screen to fill up the whole desktop, so hopefully it's still sharing that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to YouTube.
Our screen is small down the corner. I see a SharePoint logo in the big window is what they're saying. So I just clicked on my screen. Okay, so does that help, guys? Do you see my content type now? I'm just going to keep going and you let me know what they say. So I'm going to go company policy template, put that, and Joelle already shows you, a lot of this stuff already, but I'm just going through just different concepts. So I go to I created the content type, I put the document in it, now I have to go to a library and go enable the ability to modify content types and then add that. Power Hour policy. Are we better now, hopefully? It's saving. I'm going to go ahead and hit select and on all these different questions that people had. Okay, I see my screen now on there. Okay, so it finished adding the policy template to it. Okay, and now I can go in here and create a new company policy. Except I picked the wrong content type, right? So I would want to either delete or hide the document content type from here because I want people to have to pick the policy when they go in here. Okay. Then, like Joelle said, we would add the quick parts, insert quick parts, and then put the name of the policy. So, oh, what I didn't do was add the site columns. I already created the site columns, but that's what I see. That I didn't add them yet, so they're not showing here. So what it's showing is just a bunch of generic document properties that it already has, but it's not showing me like anything specific about company policy. So I was trying to go too fast and skip some steps. All right, but that's good troubleshooting, right? Okay, go back to my company policy library, and I just have to go add those site columns that I created having to do with policies. And so what we're going to go through is we're going to go through getting the content type created and then like a policy request system. So department, policy implementation, that's a date, the owner, and the policy status. And then the policy name is just going to be the title field. And for some reason in my VM, it's always just slow when I do anything having to do with site columns or content types. All right, and then title is going to be, well, no, I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to edit the default title site column. Has anybody seen that happen? I've seen that happen before. That is not pretty, because what would happen if I did that? Every single thing that uses title everywhere in your entire organization would be called that new name that you just changed it to. So no, don't do that. All right, so I'm going to do that in the policy content type though. So I went ahead and added all the fields to the content type, and so you can see that they came across here. And then the title in the library, I'm just going to call it policy name. Does that make sense? So that way it's not, I'm not trying to change like the title site column for everybody. Okay. Now, again, I can either, as long as this isn't being used, I can just delete the document one, but it looks like it's in use. And otherwise, if it's in use and I just don't want people using it, I can just go hide it. So just make it so it's not visible. This is not the same library I just created. I'm sorry. God. Here it is. Good grief. Okay, so here are all the columns I just added. And document, again, I can hide it. And it's a pain to have to go change all the content types of stuff that's already using content types, because you can't do it in data sheet view, which is a huge issue, right?
I agree. I'm trying to stay muted so I don't mess up your screen.
Yeah.
But yes, I totally agree.
So let me make sure this did this correctly. I've seen this be a little bit buggy before in 2013, where you pick a document content type and then it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Like, watch this. Okay, so that worked. Okay, so here's my policy name, and that's going to be, actually I don't need to actually type any content in here because I just want to save this back to my desktop. I want to insert the quick parts. So you could just type some data in there just to be able to test it and see what it's going to look like, but what you really want to do is just insert the quick parts, and then you're going to have to re-upload it. So that's the title field, the Contoso departments, and that's like a site column that I use in lots of different places in my organization, the department, and the policy status, policy implementation dates, and then I'm going to add also policy owner. And then, of course, in the real life, you might want to make these a little bit make a little bit more sense. So I didn't put the policy owner in here as a site column, so it's not showing here. So I'm not going to worry about policy owner for now, just because I'm trying to get through this. Okay, so I don't want to necessarily save it back to the library. I want to save it on my desktop because I need to re-upload it. Company policy document. Okay. All right, so close that, and then go back to the content type. Hopefully, with me and Joelle both going through all these steps, it'll make more sense. I mean, just to kind of get it to sink in. So I want to upload a new one, and like she mentioned, you could point it to an existing location. And then what I'm trying to get to here, that's why the reason I'm hurrying up and I keep messing up this part, is because I'm trying to hurry through this part to get to the workflow part. Okay, so now that's uploaded. So now let me go to my policies library. Okay, you can see my quick parts are in here. I can see that the default status for policy status is new. So then that's where I could type my my title. Ooh, the people picker doesn't like that. Oops. That's taking a minute. Okay, maybe not. Not sure why the people picker's acting like that. I'm going to skip that for now. Okay, so then I can save it. What I've seen happen in here is, I don't know if you've seen this, Joelle, but I hit save. Then you can go to, you have to go to current folder, and like it, it knows where you are. But then if you just X out of the document, and then when it prompts you to save, it'll do the same thing, and it'll remember where you are. So I just have to note it to call this dress code. And what I did was, in my template, when I created the document template and I just saved it just as a Word document, I put a tag in the template itself. That way, when people, every time somebody is creating a new company policy, I have that enterprise keywords column. You saw me check those boxes for enterprise keywords in my document library. And so since I enabled that and I'm using this tags concept in my Save As screen, that way everything that's a policy is tagged as policy, and they can also add more tags to it. So it's really cool that this little tags thing ties together with your enterprise keywords as long as you enable that on your library. Okay, so I saved it. I'll go out of there and refresh this. Should be in my policies document library. There it is. And then I just don't have all my columns showing in the view, so I can go add those so I can see that information. Policy implementation date, department, stuff like that. Enterprise keywords. So look at that. So now I've got this enterprise keyword of policy, and having keywords on things helps, right, for search and all kinds of stuff. So that really helps to have that showing there, and the fact that end users can put that in the Save As screen and not have to have it some extra thing that they think they have to go do. It makes it really easy to train them to put their keywords right there every time they save documents. Have you guys seen that before? Does that sound like a good idea? Is that something you're going to go do? Okay. You guys give me some feedback in the little Q&A if you have anything to say about that. All right, so now that we've got that working, what I'm going to do is try to do a workflow so that someone can request a policy and actually have to have it approved before you can, have it implemented. Of course, we don't have any kind of box in here to put what the text of the policy would be in the document, but it has just all the information about the policy. So they would fill out this request, and then a workflow would go through some approvers, and then once they approve it, it would automatically spit out the document in the library with all the fields in it. So that's what Joelle was saying doesn't work as well in 2013. Maybe in SP1 they fixed that though, so that's what I'm hoping. So just to save time a little bit, I created a new workflow based on that policy request list that I just created. And by the way, this is using the same exact site columns that I'm using over in the document library. So it's just going to go through a process. Normally you wouldn't hard code individual people's names in there either, but so it's going to go through this process, and since on my VM I don't have email, any kind of email set up, I'm going to go in here and waive, and you can actually turn off the emails. And that's an SP1 thing that they did. So not only can you go into your task process and just not check the box for the overdue one, but you can go into the extra properties and turn those off. So once the thing gets approved, then I want to spit out a document. So I have to know what the outcome was. So so it needs to be the outcome. So that's a variable, the workflow variable of the outcome equals approved. Then I want to create list item, create item in this list, policies, and then I'm going to want to give it a name. So this is going to be whatever the name is that they call it in the request form. So policy name. It's going to end up being the file name. I want to do content type. For some reason, content type isn't in there, but content type ID is what you get, and it should actually show me the values of the content types over in that library. It's not doing that. It's very odd. See if I can move on and if it will let me. So I want to pick for the departments. I want to pick whatever department they filled in the form. Policy owner. Again, it really helps that these are all using the same site column for these. Policy status. Let's see what else. Policy implementation date. And I'll just say I'm going to make the title be the same thing as also the policy name, just in case. And we can also, if we wanted to, we could set the status of it to something else instead of new, like instead of whatever's in the form when they fill it out. So we can say automatically say the status is public once it's approved. So that's another thing that we can do as part of that. So it creates the item. And then, but it really does need to have a content type. Let me see, why does it not have? See, it's just showing like an empty drop-down box. That's odd. So if it's approved, do that. Otherwise, I always like to do an else. I'm just going to log. And then I'm going to log something in here so I'll know if that happened. All right, so let's go through this process. And of course, when you create a workflow, by default, it's just set to manually run. So I'll might just go fill one out and then manually run it on there just to save time. All right, and this one's going to be travel policy for IT. I'm not going to fill it out right now. Okay, new. All right. So did that finish? No, it's still publishing. Okay. Now I can go run this workflow on this item. Usually I just make it so that it automatically runs when somebody adds an item to a list. All right. So then I didn't give my stage a pretty name or anything, but it should be going through. It should say stage 1, and it should be going through the workflow. So let's see. You guys are very quiet. So it says it's in stage 1 and it's started. Okay. Hasn't actually done anything yet. Oh, there we go. Unauthorized to blah, 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 blah. It doesn't like it when I try to do task processes with no email set up on my computer. I think that that's what it is. Like every time I try to do task processes in this VM, it just doesn't like me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is instead of using this task process designer, I'm going to use just regular old content approval. How does that sound? Okay. Just so we can get this functioning. All right, so on my list, on my policy request list, I'm going to go in here to versioning settings and say require content approval. And then, all right. Okay, so then it's required. Now I have to refresh in SharePoint Designer so it'll know that I changed something. And I think I can do a wait. Wait for field change approval status. Where is that? Approvals. Yep. Approval status to equal approved. This is actually something that wasn't in initially, and it came out in SP1 that they added this back in 2013 workflows. And then while I'm in here, I'm going to go set this to be able to run when items created too. And I also like to go to my one that errored out and go ahead and kill it.
The approval status was approved. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think it automatically sets it when you, when you turn on content approval. You're right. So I'm just going to do a new request since that one's already approved and it wouldn't be waiting. Okay, so this one, what kind of policy do we want to have? A vacation. And new. Okay. Okay, let's see. I think people forget about the little content approval settings sometimes because it's just so super simple, but it's just always been there. It's just
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me make sure that this is running and waiting. So it should be waiting for the content approval status. So it doesn't say anything. Oh, it just says unauthorized. Crap. I don't know what that means. Steven, you know what this stuff means, right? I'm not doing anything fancy in here that would cause it to error. Oh, look at that. There we go. See, the variable doesn't have anything in it, but it still should only be right here anyway. Wait for, see, current item, approval status equals approved. Do this, otherwise, okay, so that's another thing I had to fix. Come on, you guys aren't on the ball today. You're not like correcting me and stuff. I'm not talking to you guys, I'm talking to the audience. We've got 16 people out there. All right, let's see what happens here. I don't know what this thing is doing. All right, what other kind of fun policies do we want to have?
Time. You already did time off, didn't you?
Timesheet?
Yeah.
Timesheet approval policy? I don't know. Okay. So we haven't even gotten to the part where it's supposed to be creating a document, but maybe that's where it's failing. Where were you seeing it fail before, Joelle?
Well, no,
Oh.
actually, what it would do is it would create the document, but the document would be blank when I would see it fail.
Were you getting the thing where it wasn't showing you the content types in the drop-down like I had?
I don't think so. I think I was able to get the right content type, but then when it would create it, it would just the document it would create would be blank, and so it wouldn't do anything.
Well, usually workflows work in my VM, so I'm not sure what I did to completely jack it up, but
yeah, the workflow is that the 2013 workflow?
Yep.
Yeah, 2013 workflows, just for the audience to know, they have a lot of great features, but they're really hard to troubleshoot.
Okay, let's try to do the exact same thing with a 2010 one, and I'm just going to do the approval status too, also for that one.
Okay.
All right, so I'll go to workflows, and I'll go to list workflow, and it needs to be policy request.
And I got my issue working, just so
Oh,
everyone.
you know what? I'm logged in as admin. God, I knew that was going to do that. Let me log in as before I go through that mess of doing it in 2010. I'm on my own computer now as opposed to being in the VM logged in as admin.
Okay.
So funny because right when I pulled up my screen sharing, I was like, I have to remember not to be trying workflows logged in as admin, and I do it every time. Why is it not? Oh my goodness. rtm.confoso.com. Why would it all of a sudden everything would be breaking for me? I'm going to do like you and try a different browser. So funny, you try to demo things that you've demoed 100 times and just expect it to work like it always has. And then it just doesn't.
I think it's because demo sites don't get the same care as other sites. Behind the scenes.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into my other VM here. See, I'm logged in as a certain person over there, and I'm going to go in and just, as long as I'm not system account, that's what it has, you know, that's all that matters. Close that. Okay, so you guys can see this. I'm on the same site. I'm just logged in as Nicola over here. If you're nodding, I can't see you because I don't have.
Yep, I see it.
Okay. Oh my gosh. PASS at word 1. It's like all of a sudden none of my users have access to SharePoint. I literally was just demoing this yesterday, and it worked fine. Okay, let me try one more thing. By the way, guys, if you see an error in your workflow that looks like this, that means it's because you're logged in a system account. Let me go to my in private browsing. See, even when I do in private browsing, it still keeps logging me in a system account. That's why I usually go to a different, different browser.
You probably have the Contoso site in your local intranet settings. So if you take it out of that.
Yeah, I did that in group policy. Leave it to me to do it in group policy in my virtual environment, just to make things more complicated for myself.
Just because you could.
Just because I could, yeah, exactly.
I think we only have about 1 minute, and I know I have to hop off.
Okay.
But if you want to keep going, I can just hop off. I just have a call.
Okay. Well, I just was hoping to get a workflow functioning, but sorry, guys.
Well, we can always. Why don't we? Because I can circle back and show. Because I got my thing functioning too. It was just an Excel service thing. So why don't we just plan on showing like the first couple of minutes of our next session? Once we can work through our little.
Okay. Well, we showed what the workflow would look like and theoretically what it would be doing. It would just be nice to be able to demo it. All right. Yeah, we don't have anything slated for next week, so we'll just finish this up and then do whatever the next topic is going to be.
Quick parts or quick steps maybe. I don't know.
Quick steps, yeah. So quick steps is a completely different thing than quick parts.
Yeah.
So that's another demo that we're going to do. Carlos says when the content type doesn't show, sometimes I have to clear the cache for site. Okay, good to know. That's good to know, Carlos. I'll try that. Anything that can go wrong in a demo can go wrong in a demo. Thanks, Andy. All right. Well, we will see you guys next week. Thanks for coming.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.